everywhere. This is, yeah, look, here's the Peace Museum mug. I need to make myself another cup of tea soon. I'll eat. I've been feeling a bit sicky. I probably need to drink something water-wise. Probably dehydrated. Yeah, so I had a sort of successful, sort of not successful poetry performance. I was second fiddle on a Beehive Poets in Bradford Library, but the library was locked because of the storm. Nobody turned up apart from like the performers and a few other people, Hardy Souls, and we went in the Weatherspoons next door. So I started doing the kind of the set list. By singing a few nursery rhymes. I've also got things to do, like I spent a long time making a chapbook called Odd Chap, Kathy Bramley Odd Chap. People could request it, I guess. Hello. What's that? That's just rubbish. That's not the Odd Chap. Where's it gone? I think there's some spare ones, so I can show you it. I spent a long time typing up. It's not going to show it because of the lighting conditions in here, but I typed out libretti from Form the first 2 years I did it, 2021 and 2022, February album writing month, and they are, so I have the document, but it was a lot of effort and I don't really know whether it's worth it, but if anybody ever wanted that, because it's for their own personal reading or interpretation, kind of a collaborative thing. If they're making it, wouldn't be for commercial use, I don't think. I need a chance to think about that, but just for the thing of knowing. So this is the first thing I've found, so I'll do. I know it's hard to pull out actually of that case, one-handed whilst filming. I'll read some poems though. Breath. An epigram is the shortest poem, but it's mere punctuation because life continues beyond a mental health semicolon. I'll read that again. Breath. An epigram is the shortest poem, but it's mere punctuation because life continues beyond a mental health semicolon. And that is, I was trying to work out in my head one day what the shortest poem was, and on a Twitter conversation before I left Twitter, and the answer I came to was that it was probably a semicolon because it's an epigram that's quite commonly used, as in that, especially in the mental health community. It's tattoo, it's everything, and it counts as an epigram because that's the way it's used, and punctuation is part of language and pauses are a part of language. So, and it's a medium-sized pause, whereas a full stop, I think it's the full stop's the longest pause, and a semicolon is kind of half that, and then a colon is half that, maybe, and then a semi is half again. Anyway, so breath. An epigram is the shortest poem, but it's mere punctuation because life continues beyond a mental health semicolon. I'll do a single one. Yes, I made a mess. Yes, I must confess. Yes, I made a mess. Yes, I must confess. Yes, I made a mess. Yes, I must confess. Confession is the start. Confession is the end. Yes, you know I am not Catholic, but confession is my friend. My shoulders ache from crying, the pillow unpleasantly wet. I haven't even started on the state of my face yet. And yet, misery is my friend. Just behind my sternum, a tickly feeling of completion meets with me, engages me, not like another person. So intimate inside of me, endless talk and conversation. I only need to feel, it sets me free. Tense muscles are warm and comfort me, a host of angst for company. Misery is my friend. Meets with me, engages me, not like another person, so intimate inside of me, snuggly warmth and company. Misery is my friend. Endless talk and conversation. Misery is my friend. Misery is my friend. I'd like remix that from my notes inside my notebook. This is the one that's fallen apart. It's fallen apart to pieces. She says in a kind of overly cute, bright voice. Perhaps I can't write, perhaps I can't sing, perhaps I'm no good doing anything. The laundry, the cleaning, the tidying up. Can I even do them, or am I all washed up? The laundry, the cleaning, being domestic queen, are they my thing, or am I all washed up? Of whom much has been forgiven, much shall be expected. Do justly, love mercy, work humbly with your Elohim. Just do it. Carpe diem, seize the day. Whatever your hand finds to do it with all your strength. I think that bit of like epithets might have been disconnected from the poem of self-doubt before. Perhaps I can't write, perhaps I can't sing, perhaps I'm no good at doing anything. The laundry, the cleaning, the tidying up. Can I even do them? Or am I all washed up? The laundry, the cleaning, being domestic queen, are they my thing? Or am I all washed up? So it's a bit repetitive. I wouldn't say it was the greatest poem, or that is just a thought diary. That's what you can use poetry for. It's just a diary, just a making words make sense, because sometimes talking conversationally, it's not as easy to form the words in the emotions. Sometimes just doing short sentence kind of things I find easier than actual kind of self-expression in more normal conversational or essay kind of tone. If I am men, a prisoner of my own making, why can't they see the buzz that I see? What do I see? What do they see? Rattle them with me, rattle them with me. If I am men, a prisoner of my own making, what do I see? What do they see? Why can't I see the buzz that they see? Why can't they see the buzz that I see? Rattle them with me. Rattle them with me. Rattle them with me. That was one I wrote years ago. Anyway, I am Kathy. I am Kathy. I am just me. I am just me. Not so bulletproof, but cellophane surrounds me. Not so bulletproof, but cellophane surrounds me. I am Kathy. I am Kathy. I am just me. I am just me. And there's more 2 pages. I'm going through this fragment of a notebook, and there's several pages of this. Me just rewriting If I'm in the Prison of Iron Making song. Notes from Life from 2014. Indeed, if you go to the window, it does happen, but it's like it exists in its own kind of philosophical space, and you can doubt yourself and you can doubt everything else, but time keeps marching on. You can be overly confident in everything as well, and yeah, somewhere in the middle. Thank you. You too. Have a fabulous day yourself. Notes from Life, 14th to the 16th of is that November of 2014, including Mariella Frostrup in Observer magazine. So this is me writing about a problem page magazine, about a problem page in the Observer, nearly said Guardian. I would write to a problem page if I could narrow it down. I would ask and ask and ask for the right services from professionals if I knew what to ask for. I might have searched the internet before now to find out the best way to tie shoelaces. I'd feel confident and teach it to my children if I had a feeling that that was the most important thing. John, but it's okay. It's still a neat trick, but Ian not. I would be okay if I could get a sense of perspective and realise I'm not in the grip of war and poverty. Or is that the other way around? John, there are anxious people. Hang on, I've written something very small, and it's additional bit of the poem, so I'm going to skip that. I've not got a bright enough room for it to be bright enough. Well, no one knows my channel. I don't know you, but what are we? Ships in the night. Balls of fluff floating through this mysterious world we call Earth and space and time. Anyway, I'm trying too hard to be poetic, but that's kind of what it is. I'm not here for, I'm just kind of speaking into the void. Hello, voidlings. Maybe there's a reason you're here, maybe not. Maybe it's just chance. I would write to a problem page if I could narrow it down. I would ask and ask and ask for the right services from professionals if I knew what to ask for. I might have searched the internet before now to find out the best way to tie shoelaces, and I would have felt confident and taught it to my children if I had a feeling that was the most important thing, John. But it's still a cool trick. I would be okay if I could get a sense of perspective and realise I'm not in the grip of war or poverty, according to Mum and maybe Mariella. I think it's the other way around. So that was Notes from Life, a 2014 kind of response to some reply from Mariella Frostrup in the Observer Problem page. Because I think you can misuse war and poverty and things like that to be like as a goad or what's your excuse, the same way you can like Paralympians and disability success stories. And I think it's a misuse of struggle in that sense. And also when I read problem pages, it's never quite ideas that exactly fit my situation. So that's interesting. And I wouldn't know where to start. At the moment I'm streaming because I don't know where to start. ADHD kind of and slightly feel kind of like I shouldn't let a headache or a brain fog stop me maybe, but that's what it's doing today. Don't dangle, jingle jangle money, don't dangle, jingle jangle money, flash. That's what it is. I'm going to just turn you around to see that page. Sorry, this is that. Don't dangle, jingle jangle money, don't dangle, jingle jangle money, flash. That's what it is. Yeah, this was my thing, that I get why some people go like ballroom culture and hip hop culture, where, but yeah, the all these pretentious billionaires flashing their money and their cash and their kind of everybody wanting to be the Bullingdon Club, but from wherever they are, it's not good. When you've got nothing, that's a different thing. But when you actually are rich and or well off, so it's, I guess that's the opposite of saying don't blame people for not being in deep poverty or war. I think it's a misuse of message retracted. I don't know what yeah. It's sad Mark Reckless has a name that fits. I think he was a politician that did something annoying. I think he was a Conservative politician. I'll go background, Mr. Teacher. Hello, whoever is still with me. I need to offload. Complexity's goad is being alone. This is my sad neurotype writing poetry as a friend kind of thing, rather than crying as a friend. Although it happens together. I just sung this one earlier. Yes, I must confess. Yes, I made a mess. Yes, I must confess. Yes, I made a mess. Confession is the start. Confession is the end. Yes, you know, I am not Catholic, but confession is my friend. My shoulders ache from crying, the pillow unpleasantly wet. I haven't even started on the state of my face yet. And yet, misery is my friend. Just below my sternum, a tickly feeling of completion meets with me, engages me like not another person. So intimate inside of me, snuggly warmth and company, and endless talk and conversation. I only need to feel. Misery is my friend. Misery is my friend. So that's like, crying isn't always a bad thing. It can be processing stuff. It can be hi, sorry, my last thing ran out of battery. I might do a couple of poems and then go away. Don't think anyone's still here because everyone's gone away, because it was, anyway. Only my hazelnut latte understands me. I'm going to the beginning of what's left of this purple book. This kind of purple, it's like a lacy pattern on the pages. Only my hazelnut latte understands me. Tea and coffee intoxicate. Hot chocolate gives a gentle lift. Wraps me up and smothers me in love. Only my hazelnut latte truly understands me. Yet I doubt the emotional crutch of my caffeine-laced liquid brunch. That was a poem that I did for myself a long time ago, years ago, 15 years ago, maybe less than that, a bit more than that, sorry, no, 15 years, maybe a bit more, because yeah, my kids were small, and I had postnatal depression still going on. I was in the CMHT for 9 years, and that was following on ADHD, so there was other depressions before that, just to at least be stable and hear from our family and things, because working in checkouts just made me really unwell. But I was trying to do a course and volunteer at the start of that at the same time, so it was a lot. Writing poetry, it's kind of like sculptural. You're creating things with your words more easily than trying to do this kind of conversational kind of presentation. Crazy. Tumbling, screaming, crying, mutating, flying, ruminating, dying. The further I go, you won't go into my heart. Crazy. Tumbling, screaming, crying, mutating, flying, ruminating, dying. The further I go, you won't go into my heart. So that's a poem that I did with my husband in mind, because he's quite taciturn and just doesn't think on the same kind of wavelengths I do sometimes. Sometimes we do, obviously, we have connections, there's a reason we're together. But he's more like sewerage and quarries and histories of cinemas and the kind of functional details of things than he is kind of the philosophical places I go to in my head. Although he does have a philosophical side, but he's a bit more taciturn. He finds emotional expression more difficult. And then next poem there's the latte, and then the next hazelnut latte one, I put the title as the first line and called it just Latte in this 2014 edit. 2014, so yeah, that is nearly 20 years ago. Years ago. that's December 2014, so I must have written it early, the other two bits earlier in the year. Sorry. Moment. Playing with dough. My daughter asks, "What's Mummy made?" Loaves of dough suggest a trefoil remembered from my Girl Guide days. I use my finger to push it into better shape, and that is the only forceful point there. So that's stuff about, like, yeah, still my frustration with outline structure and university and failing university and failing the ecology and conservation thing at MVQ I tried to follow up with. Only when I really write poems can I write concisely. Like I say, sculptures, become a sculptor with words. I struggle with these other formats and the interactive aspect and building the train tracks for it. The face looks weird. Or perhaps I'd like it to look weirder, I don't know. Haven't got a plan, haven't got a clue, have you? Haven't got a plan, haven't got a clue, have you? Haven't got a plan, haven't got a clue, have you? So I just inserted that into a blank page, but it fits with the kind of diary style of my notebooks. I know how I write. For Tony Harrison and Pete Smith and Bob Swift and Suzanne and English lessons everywhere. A poem for the people needs to be simple, something common to the common people, so captive vivids, like tigers and daffodils to flash upon inward eye. Avoid the over cryptic and somewhat dry. Good words make ideas stick. A poem for the people needs to be simple. Spider's web, catch dragonfly. Because it's about a problem with studying Tony Harrison. I love Tony Harrison. I loved his Feminist poem. Absolutely love it to death. Quote it, send people videos of it regularly. But the weird thing to say, love it to death, when he's actually just died, R.I.P. But yeah, my friends would struggle with that poem. Them and us, their friends would struggle with it. People come. I'm going to read that poem again to nobody. For Tony, but yeah, his style is very erudite and it's very dense, and I enjoyed that, picking it apart. But some of my classmates struggled more with it, and I don't think it necessarily said at that time in 2014 that I was writing this. I was quite frustrated. I think it was something that I thought needed to be rectified, but I don't feel that way so much anymore. But here, I'll read it again. For Tony, Pete, Suzanne, Bob, and Mum. A poem for the people needs to be simple, something common for the common people. Tigers, daffodils on the inward eye, not the over cryptic and somewhat dry. Well-placed words make ideas stick. Spider's web, catch dragonfly. That was the slightly edited version. That was the second draft. Sorry, not reading it again. What's the difference there? Anyway, so that was that. Crafted, wielded, elegantly shielding, Feel the value of eloquent wording, but words can confuse, obscure, divorce, separate. So true, it's hard to communicate. And once your words are out, it's often too late. Words can transport on sonic wave, but, well, words can calm, build, heal, and save. Words are the sky and the glass ceiling. At least that is sometimes my heartfelt feeling. It's a worthwhile struggle to communicate feeling. But can I say I really tried? So that was an early version of a poem, particularly based on that first stanza. Crafted, wielded, elegantly shielding, feel the value of eloquent wording. And there's later versions that go like, but words can frustrate, befuddle, bemuse. I don't know if that was it, or sometimes I go with confused, divorce, separate. It's famously hard to communicate. Versions of that. Then there's a little picture in this book, and me drawing the lace that's very subtle. So let's go with, I think this next one is a doggerel prayer for Wendy, who was a lady with schizophrenia who used to come to my church. Wendy, be anointed with healing oil. Be anointed with freedom from toil, from mental fight, to settle what's right. That covered me as well. Wendy, be anointed with blessings from care about the dead. But do not keep the medium's head. Be free from listening maybe I've just crossed it out. Be free from talking death. Wendy, be anointed with healing oil. May be anointed the one who is healing. Oh, I'll heal you, or Wendy. May God cast out and renew. I think it was just me worrying through this lady. We all felt and held affectionately, but said disturbing things about dead people she was talking to. And it's because she was ill. And sometimes I think people who are, I don't think there's a clear split between the spiritual and the ill. And I think people can be, I think, highlight me, the spirit of the prophets is subject to the prophets was really important to me when I was a teen, and at university and kind of going to church and dealing with people who were friends who were going through mental health episodes or who had been brought to faith by kind of visions and things like that and episodes. And so that verse from Corinthians and 1 Corinthians 14, which is using a slightly different concept, was that God was working with people, consubstantiating their universe. And so I would be kind of like affectionately wrestling with how other people at church treated Wendy and how I treated Wendy. She didn't quite have that same story, but she was treated as a kind of a character, which I guess I was in some ways. And people would sometimes like gently argue with her or just affectionately give her some grace in the place in the church, but she could also be unsettling. And so we weren't a spiritualist church, and she had talked about her illness to some people. I got more sense out of her than some people did because of that I would talk gently to her and kind of work with her where she was. And I think that's important. I found that important for me when I was having mental health. When I was most close to paranoid thoughts. Like, I can see you think that the mental health workers were saying, the crisis workers were saying, but I think this. So you kind of acknowledge people's truth without aggression and also share your own. And that's kind of grounding and really helpful, I think. I think that's the way to talk, and it's respectful. And I think that's the way to talk to people when they're having mental health difficulties. This is all written in pencil, and it's been buttering about my bedroom floor for years, so that's the next thing I was going to read. There's something evil in the pages of the G2. It isn't me, it isn't you. It's just the sense that we need more salty, sparkly zeitgeist glue. That was when I was quite bothered about The Guardian being quite codependent with by proxy with the way it reported music people like Pete Doherty and other stories, even just social justice stuff, that its bread and butter is, there's a kind of, as well as other cultural stuff, it just felt kind of exploitative. It wasn't the need to care, but there was something about the way it was distasteful about the kind of way it was framed. Like there was, like, I invented this word. It was eventually removed from the the internet slang dictionary, but it was called psychoporn, and it's just like the need to engage with gritty details in order to kind of add excitement to your middle class life. Oh, there's another one that's about The Guardian as well underneath. Maybe when I'm, and the note is from therapy. Maybe when I'm older, I'll lose the Guardian columnist on my shoulder. No angel and demon versions of myself for me, as in the classic device in cartoons by Disney and Warner Bros. And other people. Maybe when I'm older, I'll lose the Guardian columnist on my shoulder. I think it's like there's Daily Mail voices on one shoulder and Guardian on the other. I only read the like tabloids, the Mail and the Sun type things when my mum would get them for during the election periods. But regularly, she got the Guardian and the local papers. me still reacting. Well, that was a while ago, sorry, I should have, the extra smile I think was for me, for my critical Guardian rants. Reading my life, reading my life, reading my life, but no rhythm, no tick. I write poetry as a sort of diary, a sort of therapy. And in therapy I spoke of thinking and feeling as if there was some guardian too, columnist on my shoulder reading my life. That image made an impact on Patrick, the psychotherapist I see. But in life and in therapy, there are these bright ideas amidst so much disfluency. Yeah, disfluency. That's cluttering. That is why I use the sculpture with words metaphor, I think, now. I just started doing that today because cluttering is a speech disorder that's kind of like the opposite of dyslexia. Not dyslexia, the opposite of stuttering, because the thoughts lose their coherence as you try and say things. But you can keep forming words and getting things out. I mean, I stutter as well sometimes, but it's kind of one or the other sometimes. You can't concentrate on all of it. The next poem I wrote here was, in poetry we make it work, we tell our lives and our ideas and make them sound as if they work. Some negative revelation there, if I do say so myself. I think that's kind of, I don't know whether that's conceited or not to think like that, but that's how I think sometimes. But on one side of things, it's not like, I wouldn't say that was a current top of my thought head, but it was more of an anxious sort of thought about like what the heck am I doing here kind of question. In poetry we make it work, we tell our lives and our ideas and make them sound as if they work. There is a sort of retcon aspect maybe, instead of feeling amorphously off and wrong. In a uniform school I see a line of ghosts led by Edward Mosley. And there's another version. What I see in a uniform school is a line of ghosts under Mosley's rule. Or what I in uniform school see is a line of ghosts led by Edward Mosley. What I see in a uniform school is black shirt ghosts under Mosley's rule. This is the way that we used to think at my school. It was a non-uniform school. We were encouraged to think of our teachers as equals, and we didn't wear uniforms. And we had these conversations. Belper School in Derbyshire, and home of the Belper Moo during the pandemic. Well, not the school, but the town, because they were just mooing at the pandemic to make it a bit lighter, a bit ridiculous. It's kind of like, don't want to mention rolling, but that idea of the ridiculous kind of curse on it, I think. I was talking about that during my half successful poetry reading, where I was second fiddle. I don't mind being second fiddle. She was the more experienced poet, Kathy Benson, and I was there, and we decamped to literally there was a homeless camp outside the library, but the library was locked because of the storm, and we ended up going into the Wetherspoons next door but one, because the Starbucks was closed. I think that school affected me more than other people, or in different ways than to other people maybe, but it's still a general. I've gone back and forth on it lately. Maybe a uniform school compared to Edmund Leslie is a bit strong, but then other times it's like, no, that's right. Like co-op schools, I love co-ops. I love the idea of cooperation, but a co-op school with a uniform, is it a political uniform? But yeah, my school, I was a non-uniform school, encouraged to see my teachers equal, and encouraged to think of uniforms as brown shirt fascists, black shirts fascists. I can't remember which way they were in Britain. Like a sausage factory rather than anything decent. I'll go with another one, and then if I might, or two, I might end there because I need to go and eat some lunch. I'm the audience. I'm the audience, the poet, the critic, the therapist, and amateur psychologist that my notebooks were written for. They remind, inform, and entertain me. Some of it might be worth publishing still. We'll see. My poems come in poetic wind. The words retrace around my mind. The words recount the things I know, and still so ruminating I go. The poem, the lyric, the line, the verse, the writing attempts to hold the thought, attain, finish, and polish the clarity for which I fought. But the fight goes on, the beating drum. And so, a lyricist, ruminating on, I go. And so I go, a lyricist, ruminating on. But hi, I've finished what I was reading. Don't worry if you're away from keyboard, that's okay. It doesn't have to be a like semi-private video conference. I'm just into the void, but it's nice to have your company. I'm debating. I said I was going to go, and now I'm thinking about this other stuff. Poetry and rumination, twinned process and examination. 1. Poetry, a couplet. My poems come in poetic wine, the words retraced around my mind. 2. Rumination, the words recount the things I know, and yet so still a ruminating I go. The poem, the lyric, the rhyme, the verse, the writing attempts to hold the thought, attain, finish, polish the clarity for which I've fought. But the fight goes on, the beating drum, and so I go, a lyricist, ruminating on, a stuttering lyricist, ruminating on, a stuttering lyricist, ruminates on. Yeah, that was kind of the edit of the previous one. I think that might be better. I'm not sure if I like the Roman numerals kind of 1, 2. Sometimes I see that in poems and think it's pretentious. I don't know. But sometimes it's good. I mean, there are lots of poems and poets I like that do that, so that's why I'm doing it. Or why I did it, and why I probably will do it again. It's just convenient sometimes when you're trying to separate a couple of different thoughts. I've drained the cup, I've fully supped up, I've finished my cup of tea. If the rest of life was that simple, I could finish solving me. That was from the 22nd of the 9th, 09. There is indeed a date just below it. I've drained the cup, I've fully supped up, I've finished my cup of tea. If the rest of life was that simple, I could finish solving me. It's just that kind of moment that I sometimes like to share, like to create a poem about, or especially then, a bit of the now with a bit of the bigger stuff. Thank you, Limey Redneck. You're not in trouble. I didn't say your whole name for that reason. I was just stuttering in a mental way. Thank you. Drain the cup, I fully supped up, I finished my cup of tea. If the rest of life was that simple, I could finish solving me. And I recorded the date, and I think it might be important because it was the time of life that I was doing it. It was well before diagnosis, which didn't happen until 2020. But I was still thinking about stuff like that. I used to call it Kathy syndrome when I was at primary school, even, because I was having the labels debate back then and being thrown all the kind of slurs and things like that. Or the kind of like, you don't need labels, kind of anxiousness about, well, I think about what's happening now, this sort of big government, authoritarian, fascist focus on disability. And if you can get away with it and be undercover, why wouldn't you, was their mindset. But I've gone for the third option, or tried to, or at least also, if it might not happen like that, but at that stage I was thinking if it was going to all get fascist, I would be on the trucks with my kids, which I feel quite emotional about, weirdly. Well, not weirdly, but yeah, it's one of those things that brings it up. It makes me kind of like ready to cry potentially. See, that was a disfluency, that's quite a cluttering thing. And it does the or dyspraxia, in my head the lines between them are all a bit fuzzy, and in reality too, I think. I am Columbo. I do this a lot, or at least I relate to Columbo because it's similar gesture of trying to hold in and drain out one's brain. A poetic essay on poetry, them and us. So that's back to Tony Harrison, that I read earlier. Poet, and I was thinking about me and schema/CBT because that was a kind of therapy after a waiting list when I had postnatal depression that I went. The CBT for the with the therapist Patrick I was talking about, the CBT part was quite useful, but the schema wasn't so much. And the kind of wrestling with the model and everything that was in his head that I wanted to understand and that didn't quite make sense to me was tricky. Poetry is a speech of kings, which is a line from Tony Harrison's Them and Us. It's a speech of kings in so much as it elevates speeches and things. And that was always the line from his poem was about his barbarian grammar school teachers being kind of like scoffing. I have this saying, there is one stick. The devil has one stick and he doesn't care who uses it, and that stick is snobbery, snottiness, scoffing, part of the vanity that was ascribed to the devil. And that's the distilled wisdom that got there was that, and a lot of the problems in society comes from kind of unkindly ossified hierarchy. And sense of superiority and arrogance. Anyway, on poetry, Themenos, and main schema CBT, starting with a line from Themenos, which was a critically given line. Poetry is the speech of kings in so much as it elevates speeches and things. It can elevate the ordinary too. Poetry certainly comes in everyday guise. For instance, it is what happens as and after we analyse. In a report, for instance, we write conclusions, prosaically, as that's what's expected. Usually, what's expected. But all of us form proverbs inside our heads. And generally, every family has its own canon of proverbs and phrases and sayings. Things that your mother said. Poetry is also the voice of my grand schemers, the mode that wants to set the world to rights, the mode that wants to find the right words that settles all those fights. When we make a truth, the sound is proof, or at least a memory aid. Good words are more easily mentally replayed. I think this might have been I remember, because that was the problem with Them and Us. As lovely as a poem it is, a lot of people in my English class were struggling with it, and all the other poems, Tony Harrison poems, we did because they felt it was too inaccessible, and that was what he himself was struggling with, the battle between his family's culture, his home culture, and that world of grammar school that he was sucked up into, and the poetry and ideas that he loved, but not the snobby side. And he was talking about the cultural diversity in Them and Us. He was talking about how actually all of it was based in accents and based in grassroots authenticity, but it was kind of stolen the same way there was that Akala. No way, I could just couldn't bring his name to my mouth. Akala did a thing about the propaganda of British values, and he was talking about how things get repeated, the pattern of things getting stolen and treated as like wondrous British values, like the Notting Hill Carnival as being celebrated as an aspect of cultural diversity when it was attempted to be banned so often, and just sort of like fought until they decided no, they needed to take it under control and aegis. And culture of Britishness has been like that repeatedly, that we make things for ourselves and make the best of our lives, and then it gets kind of, well, Tony Harrison put it as your voice is in the hands of the receivers, because he was talking about received pronunciation, and then making it as kind of like a debt reclamation, tax reclamation thing that was only justified because the people in power said so, was kind of just nicking it all. Yes, 100%. Thank you. But now I've gone for an hour, and that's going to take forever to upload, and I've not had any dinner. It sounds so pathetic, but yeah, that was it's kind of talking about the opposite, really, that the British language has been, there's a one of those. No, they were in the poem, Them and Us, he was saying that instead of poetry being the speech of kings, and the comic bits were given to the people who spoke with a dialect, in the prose, actually Cockney Keats, Wordsworth's Matter Watter were full rhymes. They were all, so basically the bailiffs have come in, got heavy, stolen, because it's like the words, the riches of people in poverty, because that's what the wealthy do, and they were the receivers in that way, which was a play on words relative to received pronunciation, and that kind of, there's a line he says, "You barbarian TW." He was nicely spoken. They kind of, that hypocrisy and snottiness and that kind of attempt to use language in order to kind of, that is a grassroots, more anarchic product, in order to prop up their kind of aristocratic hierarchy and exploitation, as the whole propaganda exploitation model is not just financial, it's cultural as well. It's like a brains trust, like in Lego Movie, where you've got all the people, the master builders, having their brains siphoned for new patterns, and then you've got this cartoon villain that looks suspiciously like Trump. Why Trump is suspiciously like Gotham villains altogether. It's like witches art, witches fiction, have they just rolled in a cycle together? Because what's going on now is very like, very like B movie from Gil Scott Heron. It's it's not as well known as The Revolution, will may not be televised, but more relevant, I think, because media changes, doesn't it? But and not of the situations are not exactly the same, but Ronald Reagan with his Star Wars projects and his made up welfare queens that were from a kind of like Rachel Dolezal of the day, possibly. I can't remember which way round it was, whether she was white passing or whether she was the opposite, whether she was Rachel Dolezal kind of end. But she was like this story that wasn't typically all representative, and he made it up into this whole trope in order to fulfill his racist, and as Gil Scott Heron said, they would rather have had John Wayne. They'd rather have had John Wayne. Racist, angry, the one that they had to literally hold back when I'm trying to remember. I'm not sure I'm going to get it accurate if I try. the Native American who spoke and accepted Marlon Brando's Oscar for him, and spoke about how Native American people were treated in Hollywood, and John Wayne was in the background trying to, because he was a misogynist and racist twit, but that's what people in America apparently want. Boris Johnson's was like the buffoonish proxy hero in a different way in Britain. We're kind of like slightly different aspirations. We want Mr. Bean as a philanderer, apparently, kind of oath-wash things, which is not the autism representation. I mean, I don't think, some people argue with me, but I dislike all the ableism that gets fired at Boris Johnson and Trump. I don't think it helps anything. I think it's betrayal from the left when they do that. That's my personal opinion. But then I feel like the mirror Boris Johnson in some ways, just my circumstances were different. But and although he is old money in a way, he's new money, old money for. He's not. He doesn't. Trump doesn't act like he inherited wealth, but he doesn't act like old money acts. He's just more flash and garish and things, isn't he? He's forwards. Yeah, I don't think. Well, I hope Boris isn't quite the same as Trump in that Epstein kind of stuff, but who knows? It's still yucky. Yeah, for the different national characters and identities, we've got John Wayne types. Trump's somewhere in the middle, actually, between John Wayne and Boris Johnson, isn't he? He's not fully that, but he's not fully either. But he's the same with the Reagan thing, the TV recognition and the appearance of glamour helps. I don't know what his Melania ever saw him in, really, but or anyway, just listen. It's a poem my daughter wrote. I probably ought to go. I've carried on. This is a poem I wrote for my mum ages ago. Yeah, probably that she was part of that circle, wasn't she? Was it the Kit Kat Club or something? Some kind of club in New York that she went from her home country there, and she was part of those circles, wasn't she? Yeah. So yeah, sad. She's not good for either, though. But still sad. Yeah. You don't have to be a perfect victim. But, know, she's embedded herself. The world is so complicated, and even like Trump and Boris Johnson, they're products of their own upbringings. It's like if I wasn't raised in an activist household and I'd been sent to private school and kind of absorbed myself into that, maybe I could have been like Boris Johnson, like a female Boris Johnson, but the thought, perish the thought. It's kind of like where you put your walls up and where you put your treasure, depending on the principles that guide you. And that is a lot like religion, it's chance, isn't it? It's a lot lottery of birth. as well as partly decisions, because people make counter decisions, counter cultural decisions in their life, and nothing's that, and we rebel, and it's not simple, nothing's simple. Okay. I am going, I promised I was going, not because hopefully I'm not lifting. This is one is for my mum, because sometimes we have a difficult relationship, okay? But this is a positive one. Lifting me up. Broken I tried, frozen I cried, lifting me up, I'm by your side. Being so fierce, seeking the peace, sparks in our eyes, tears in our mouths. Broken I tried, frozen I cried, lifted me up, I'm by your side, holding it in, telling it out, asking what it's all about. Broken I tried, frozen I cried, lifted me up, I'm by your side. Broken we tried, frozen we cried, lifting me up, I'm by your side. Kind of not my best singing, but that was that for that. I think extreme wealth and inequality is evil. And that has, they used to say, like I was saying, if you play in the coal, you'll get dirty. And if you have extreme wealth, that's structurally just a very difficult situation to be in and be righteous, because like the energy that you're using, the environmental impact, the kind of networks of how wealth maintains itself or kind of situates itself, it is all like, who was it? Was it Bill Gates' ex-wife who was trying to kind of divest all that money and put that she'd got and put it into, she was and dispose of it ethically, and it was really, really difficult. I think wealth is a millstone around your neck, and all the zeros, you just, it doesn't actually make you worth that many more zeros to factor of. I think it's just a lot of air, and that's too big. I'm just flipping my book around. Flipping the book is not like the new flipping the bird, flipping the book. I'm not talking about people of the book, I'm just talking about my own notebooks, and I'm rambling. It's nearly an hour and a quarter. This is going to take forever to upload before I even decide whether to put it public. And I haven't eaten. But thank you for listening, Limey, and anybody else who popped in. Thank you. And anybody else who may come later. Thank you. Sorry. Nice to chat. As limited as it was, or to talk at you. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Sorry, I should do it that way around. Good to see you too. Okay.